You have an addition. You have an addition in front of you. Any additional anything?
There's no additional.
Thank you. In favor? And I want to recognize our media, Channel 32, to McCarthy. Good to see you in Temple City. Thank you very much for being there. All right. We have in the gallery Brandon Jensen, who will speak to us a little bit later. We have minutes of the 28th that need to be adopted. Councillor Kenley?
I'll move to adopt the May 2024 meeting minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Under 5, you will see bylaw and policies, a SIP tax penalty waiver. And if you remember what was presented to us, there are a few citizens that have a definite increase in their taxes for this year, and who were on tip. But what they have now for problem is that the last payment is significantly higher than what I paid all the other months. And their asking was to divide that last payment between June and July without having to pay the penalty because it would not be up to date by the end of June. I think it's a fair request. The payment comes June the 1st, and the next payment will come July the 1st. So we're really talking a couple of days difference, honestly. So what we're asking. So to me, it's a fair request. I could not expect or think of what the increase will be. So if somebody is willing to put a motion forward to accept the waiver penalty of those on tip who will pay the taxes by July 1st.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
We extend, we waive the July 1st tax penalty for customers that wish to split the payments into amounts.
Yeah. All right. All in favor? Thank you. I think that's an easy fix. On the 6th, other business, that is when we entertain to have Brandon come and present the capital plan update for us. If you like to come to the lectern, Brandon will appreciate that. I'm saying to keep our crew busy and helping us to do our project. You may have to speak a little louder.
I don't know if you have a few minutes to go
through our capital projects. There you go. I'll back up. I went through as best I could and came up with maybe some of the concerns we had. I know that Jeff has updated you on some of the bigger projects, our water or our wastewater treatment plant, and the stage and where we're at with that project. So I won't get into a lot of detail unless you have questions on that one, but we've had a few concerns along the way. I think we're moving forward in a good direction with that.
Yeah, it seems to me, Jeff, at the last conversation we had, that environment would be okay with leaving us at the level 2, correct?
The preliminary look is yes, we stayed on high
Okay.
level 2.
Thanks.
And I guess going to our other one, I'm skipping around, but there is the other Main Street study that we've been doing, and I think you've been updated on that. We've had a bit of delays on it, but I think we've got another meeting coming up this week, and I think things will get moving along as well with that. A few of these jobs, we have a water main loop. It's just a little loop there over by the elementary school, part of our upgrading. That also is in a pressure, we're in a pressure zone slash gravity zone, so we just have to work through that with our valving and make sure everything's correct. But otherwise, not a lot of concerns, not a big project there. I added the Cottonwood development on there because we've had a lot of, I guess, concerns along the way, and we had to work through a few things, and I think we're at a point that we are moving forward with things. We're providing connections for a main on either end so that it's looped as well. I just weren't sure at the time, because the water main being as shallow as it was, where we needed to go. So I just wanted to keep that in there for us to.
Can I ask you, Brandon, do we now have an agreement with that development regarding the asphalt and the paving of a section?
That's something we are still communicating with them.
Okay.
I know that they've.
Still just.
I know that's where they have talked of getting it to, is a paved surface. They're doing curbing along the of that.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, we just have to work through that. I don't know if that's a shared cost or what we want to do on that. So that's not finalized either.
I mean, that could benefit all of them and us, really.
Good, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I do have Albert Talbera Engineering. He's looking at this zone as well, because it is right where we have our pressure zone off that pump house. Just to make sure that, because there has been a few residents that have had concerns with water pressure and stuff, so he's just looking at that area and making sure that we haven't missed anything while we're working in that development. So
Thanks.
our water loop on First Street, that's done by Southwest Concrete. Again, not a lot of concern on that, other than it is commercial. We got heavy traffic that we gotta try to work around to get that line in, but it would, once completed, it gets rid of a dead-end line. When we do Main Street, and if we shut that line down, we don't kill off the services for like McDonald's and all those businesses. So this does prevent that for the future anyways, as we go forward with that Main Street. Taste and odor, this was just basically today. I think we've got the proposal back from AE, so they're going to look at doing some testing, come up with some solutions, different costing for those solutions, and then just give us a good idea of where we sit. It's just that, and maybe we can work with that on doing the aquifer, but just that I'm not positive if they're doing testing on our current system, if we do switch over to an aquifer fed. If we switch over to an aquifer fed, if that's going to change any of these results, or if the treatment would be the same. That's, I guess, basically my only concern on that. And yeah, Albert Taga with Talbera is looking at the aquifer study. He did that with Moses Lake when they did their wells, and so he's got a good idea of what the mapping and everything for the aquifers, and he's been through that process recently.
Can I just comment? Often a groundwater source, because it's not impacted by influences from the surface, can turn out to be a better tasting and better quality water. Certainly that's been my experience for a long time. The risk is, or not the risk, but the situation might be, and there is some information available to us, that groundwater may require chemistry treatment that a surface water doesn't have. And for example, we know that the Moses Lake deep well, just over here, there, it's got higher than acceptable levels of arsenic, and that would have to be drilled into the same aquifer. But it's a real crapshoot as to what you're going to, what aquifer or what water seam you're going to run into. So if I understand the program that you're doing, we're going to try and figure out where a good location for a well would be, so that down the road we can get into our raw water. So have you got a spot picked out yet?
Albert has picked a few. I mean, he wants to try to do it in locations where our facility is close by, so we don't have to transport it
How many
along.
test wells is he going to drill, do you know, in the budget we've got?
Well, with the budget we got, I think he can only do about 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot.
Because the other thing is just going by memory, the Moses Lake well is, help me Jeff, it's 150 or 180 feet deep? Does that sound right? Yes. I'm going by memory. So, but if we go lower in the valley to hit the same aquifer, potentially, then we should pick somewhere, that would mean the well depth would be less, and it would be hope he is considering somewhere of a lower elevation that would be close enough to the raw water supply.
Jeff,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Just to mention, the one location that I think we're almost keen on is right by our leak intake, because it's a low elevation and we have intake infrastructure right there.
Right.
So we don't have to extend anything very far. So I think that's the first one that we're looking to.
And that's lower than Moses Lake, so that's a good thing too. Okay, that's good, thank you.
Okay.
All right. You want to carry on?
Yes. I kind of put 3rd Avenue West intersection, Fire Hall Creek Bank work, and there's also a sidewalk replacement. I put those all kind of in the same category there. So these will just be working basically together on those. The creek bank work, we're hoping looks positive. I'm getting communication now from Ocean and Fisheries. It looks, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So yeah, if we stay positive, I guess maybe it'll happen, but that looks like it'll be a good fair amount of the work that the guys will be doing is working on that with everything in that area. The other thing is paving. I know every year we do quite a bit of paving. I put in there this year, we have some work by the elementary school, which it's always nice to be able to, while they're out for summer holidays, if we can hit that area. Tall strip was awarded. We did tender that out. Tall strip was awarded that. So they will be doing also the tennis court resurfacing for the pickleball and stuff. So what they've suggested is their July is very slow, which is usually for everybody, and then as soon as August comes, everybody wants paving. So we've been talking about if we can look at our paving program and try to do as much as we can in those months that don't have underground. In the past, we've had underground utilities, so it's hard to pave right away until we're done. But this year, I think we can do quite a bit during that time, so then our fall isn't so hectic. But
Can you give me a second? Jeff, I understand that the contract cost for this project is higher than what we had budgeted. How are we making the difference?
So yeah, they came in and ran, please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe when I ran the quick numbers, came about 7.5% higher than previous costs. And so we're over budget by about 50,000, 40,000,
Yeah.
roughly in that ballpark. So, Brand, I'll let you explain. There are areas where we can
Trim.
a little bit here,
Okay.
especially in front of Councillor Grainger, we're just skip over his house.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like it's good another 20 years or something.
Okay, all right.
No.
Well, fair enough.
Why?
So you're going to do it by kind of trimming the fat?
Yeah, in that tender, I included the road in front of that development, Cottonwood development on 7th Avenue. So if there is a cost share already, that pulls us down under budget.
Okay, all right.
So I
So
think we're all right.
that's a good way to fix it.
So related to all that, the list of projects, which isn't here on this sheet, but I'm assuming that the list is the itemized list that was in the budget.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
that's still the list. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, Brandon, thank you very much. We have one more question over there from two questions actually.
It comes out in order.
Councillor Burton.
When we do get the date finalized for the pickleball, could we let the association? No?
We have.
We have? Okay.
Okay. Does that satisfy?
They
we all
know
do
exactly what's going on.
Okay. Councillor Jensen.
Okay, and this is just really super minor and a little bit nitpicky, but your disc golf, I was talking to Ford and Darlene Nelson on the weekend, and they feel that one of those baskets is on the corner of their property, at the bottom of their property. I talked to Tara about that, and she said, oh, no, it isn't. And so I said that to them, and they said, no, they're pretty sure. And it's not that they are against it, they would just like to be told and ask permission.
Okay.
So
Well-
anyway, you might want to
No,
check
that-
out.
So the basket isn't, but the trail, so the individual working on the hill loves his job, so he did a little more than needed. But that trail does come down on the corner of their land, so we are looking at fixing that back and then coming around, or even just leaving it. I mean, just leaving it as a walking, whatever. So, yes.
All right, so there is genuine concern. All right, thank you so much, Brendan, for your presentation, and all the best to you and your crew for accomplishing all those projects this summer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, councillors, under 6B, we have different needs to transfer reserves for different projects. The first one, it's regarding a transfer from reserve for electricals, about 124,000 or something like that. Councillor Brown?
I make a motion to transfer 124,000 from reserve account 4-10-269 to electrical capital account 2-92-72. Just off.
Thank you, absolutely, you done wonderful.
You have a
So,
question?
yeah.
I was just gonna ask, what is it for?
Uh,
Maybe I did it last week, I don't know.
Yeah, you
Yeah, so we
were,
had a discussion. I can probably touch on.
Was
It's
this
for
a closed
some.
session thing?
Yeah, it wasn't a closed session, but it's equipment to optimize our system to work with that solar farm that's going on.
Okay, cool.
okay. All in favor? Thank you very much. But it's good to ask questions. Under 6B2, transfer from reserve, council approved operating. Does somebody want to do that?
For what this is for?
This is the cat.
It's just the cat thing you're talking
This
about.
this is one is a $12,000 from a general account for the animal
I'd like to speak to that before we throw it open, if that's
control.
possible.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Well, I was talking to somebody, I won't mention who, the effective cat, so I got looking it up, Dr. Google. Just a couple of things I won't won't dwell on too many. Outdoor domestic cats are a recognized threat to global biodiversity. Cats have contributed to the extinction of 63 species of birds, mammals, and reptiles in the wild. Concerning Canada, the question was, are cats an invasive species in Canada? Feral domestic cats are recognized as one of the 100 worst invasive species by the International Union of Conservation of Nature. It is estimated that between 100 million and 350 million birds per year in Canada are killed by cats.
Yeah.
For that reason, I will not support.
I totally hear you, Councillor. All what you say is true. However, we have kind of discussed that at length last time, and that's the recommendation we came up with.
True.
So I wasn't in the last discussion, but is that $12,000 money we've already allocated towards animals?
No, it's money that we need to transfer from reserve to that allocation.
But what's the reserve?
Please.
Councillor Burton, you have approved operating costs. It isn't designated for any particular department. It's fully at your discretion.
So this isn't really effectively an additional $12,000.
It's an additional, if you're considering additional to that department, yes, it is.
But not to the budget.
Yeah, so I apologize for not being here for the discussion, but would hiring these guys, we think, fix the problem or prolong the problem?
Councillor, that's an excellent question. That is honestly an excellent question. If I had a crystal ball and could give you my answer, I would. But it is true you eliminate the problem is eliminated. Here we do not know. All what we know is that it's a colony that will finally stop reproducing. That's a guarantee, but the rest is not.
So, just a couple of questions then. So, I mean, we did talk a lot about this. I too have done a lot of reading on this. And so, by my understanding of this is that we are spade neutering them, trying to rehome them before releasing them. So the hope is that we're not releasing as many as they're trapping, and because they trap them, right, is my understanding?
Yes.
Yeah, so the hope, I am hoping, is that we're not releasing as many as they're catching. And so, Councillor Court, what would be your suggestion then? So you don't support this, which I understand. No, I hear you, but I guess what...
Here's my concern. So we do all this stuff, they're still around for another 3 or 4 years. Meanwhile, we can't find songbirds in our town. I hate to say this, but some of them, they just need to be euthanized. They're a menace to the environment. They're a menace to people that live in that area, and we just need to eliminate them. I know that sounds really hard, but I've given a choice between a human's life or a human's quality of life and a cat. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I know that sounds harsh, but we have many of them, and it's causing all kinds of problems.
So can I rebuttal?
Sure.
So, not rebuttal, but so then, by approving this, you're not, I understand that, but my understanding, Mayor, is if we approve this $12,000, they come in, they trap them, do what they got to do. Then we try rehoming them, we get a hold of the county, we work with the vet clinic, whoever we can to try and get them rehomed to happy little farms and ranches out there. We release, in my head, 3 back into Cardston, and then at the same time as we're doing this, we have people that are trying to fundraise, because that was the other thing you brought up last time, is the frustration with using reserves. Of course, I completely agree. I can think of a million other things I would like to spend $12,000 on. So then are we open to the idea of having funds come in? Like, we will give $12,000 if council approves it, but if in fact Joe Blow steps forward with $10,000, we put it, rather than take it out of our reserves, like, can we leave it open to that?
That's a little bit of an accounting kind of business, but there is, I think, already an account for the vet bills. So if they want to donate to that type of fund, Jeff can a citizen donate money to the veterinary bill account that we have and receive a tax receipt to that effect.
Because Lee already talked about it. He said, sorry if I can, because Lee already talked about it and said there was money set aside, bottles or something? Or
People just drop off bottles and different things that they can cash. So we're talking, these are fundraisers $6 at a time. Don't get me wrong. You know, they're not backing a truck up full of bottles. They're taking a garbage bag. But it's all good. There are people wanting to donate to help with food and cleaning and, you know, all those types of services, vet services and those kind of things. So I guess to your question, Mayor, yes, people can donate to our programs. We don't have a special account for this. It's just an expense you have in the budget. So we just cut a check for it like anything else. But yes, we would take donations in for that cause. That would be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's good to know, thanks.
I live on the East Hill, on the north end of the East Hill, and anecdotally, I moved here in 2017. I've been feeding birds, a couple of bird feeders, steady since then. And the last year and a half, I'm 100% of the birds I had when I moved here. A noticeable, visible, so I know exactly what you're saying. I'm kind of 51-49 on this. I'm willing to give this a shot and see about its effectiveness for a couple of reasons. The main one is that our council has already dealt with the euthanasia question previously, and the motions passed and the policies passed that we wouldn't do euthanasia except under extreme circumstances. But I think I certainly understand what Councillor Court is saying. It just shivers my timber to think we've got this problem. And when I heard 48 cats, it freaked me out. And they're right down the street from me, and that's why I got no birds left. So, and all the other issues that we talked about a week ago, I'm concerned. So, but I'm willing to give this a shot, but if it doesn't work, then we might have to rethink what we're doing here because the risk is too high.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing I wanted to say, I said it last week, and I'll say it again, feeding feral cats is against a bylaw. And we may have not been enforcing that bylaw. And as far as I am concerned, and I said it last week and I'll say it again, we need to enforce that bylaw because feeding these feral cats is making the situation worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jensen?
Okay, so I'm in favor of this, of course. But what was interesting was that I had the opportunity of talking to two farmers on the weekend. And I just asked them, I said, you know, if the town trapped and neutered, spayed these cats, would you be interested in taking a cat that was fixed? And they said, yeah, as long as they're fixed. One farmer said, you know, there's probably a lot of farmers that would, because they don't want the mice in their barns. And as long as far as, and I get by, I don't off on a tangent, okay? I'm just making a comment, okay? When you're feeding the cats, okay? And I'm not against it, no, don't, I'm just making a comment. You stop feeding the cats, they will move someplace else. which means right now they're in that southeast place in Cardston, but they will maybe start moving towards my home or your home or whatever. They will move. So you know, and I'm not saying let's start feeding them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they will move. So whether that's good or whether that's bad, I don't know. But yeah, I think we should do this program and see what happens. And I'm pretty sure we can find lots of farmers that would take an already fixed cap.
Okay, Councillor Burton.
So a comment and a question. The question is, and again, I apologize because I couldn't read it, but will some of the cats potentially be released back then? Is that what you're saying, Councillor Brown?
We hope not.
I mean,
but
potentially.
Could be.
If nobody wants these things, they go back on the street. Is that where they end up?
So if that happens, then so the answer is yes. But my hope is that we will do everything possible. I will call. And I already have started talking to them as well. Absolutely.
They would go on the street.
That's in. Yes.
Okay, and then my comment is, I Councillor's comments. You know, I've had phone calls and things saying, you know, my taxes went up, and if I were to ask the average person out there how they would vote on $12,000 to have cats potentially right back where they started, I'm pretty sure I know what the answer would be.
All right. So we had discussion over a discussion, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not done.
Councillor.
So my question then to that, Councillor, is then what?
No, I don't know. I'd be happy to revisit our policy, truthfully. And maybe if they move down the street, the votes come back differently. I don't know.
But you know what I mean?
No, I know.
Like we've got all of these families, and we've got disease and mayhem and all things that are happening that we're hearing, that we heard about last week, and so I'm frustrated as to then what?
What do we do right now with cats? If I went out in a day and said, what are we doing for cats today, what would it look like?
Well, the trick is that we now have had feeding, and when you feed them, you bring them, and so now they're all here hanging out, living their best lives, and so they're just going to continue to be there as long as people are feeding them. And Jensen is right, of course. When people stop feeding them, then they're going to go elsewhere, and hopefully people will stop feeding them, and then they can just go along in the field somewhere, and the circle of life will happen, right? I mean, that to the farms, to wherever it is. But I just don't understand then if we don't do this, and I'm not comfortable spending the $12,000 either. But I just don't know what else to do.
So and that's a great comment, but my question then, stemming from your comment, is what does it look like right now? So what does Leor do for cats if we don't do this?
So right now, we do not pick up a lot of cats because there's nowhere to send them. There's just no space. And so we will lend traps to residents that have a problem, but we have not been trying to rehome because it's almost a futile exercise, and we just end up holding them in the pound for ages.
So really what you're telling us is we don't have a cat program. Maybe to read our policy if, this is a very unique disaster, but if effectively we don't have a cat program, then maybe
So in response to that, I think, at least speak for myself, when I voted in favor of the policy and the trap spay and release program, I'm thinking a handful of cats. We got allegedly 48 cats living in 2 derelict buildings, an old trailer and an old log cabin. I mean, and I wanted to say as part of this discussion, we should be enforcing other bylaws because, that log cabin, it's on 8th, right? 8th and 1st corner. that should be torn down, you know, because it's a haven for these. And I guess you took their way or their rotation way, maybe they go east back into where they came from. I don't know. But I agree with you. Whatever we're doing isn't working, and it's certainly what we, in good faith, tried to do in terms of the welfare of some feral cats. But anything that we talked about or what we're doing isn't anywhere going to come close to handling 48. And probably in the last 2 weeks that we've been talking about this, it's probably 60. I mean, these things reproduce like rabbits. So I think we got to do something real soon, because it could start affecting, you know, as Councillor Courts pointed out, people's health too.
Councillors, maybe it's time now to go ahead and we can vote for, we can vote against. It will not solve the problem. I totally agree with that. But we got to give a chance to something. Otherwise, we have residents that will be very badly negatively impacted.
But what if we don't have all the information that we need to make the decision?
Well, if you don't have all the decision, then at that time, don't vote.
Why take it to a vote then? Pardon? Yeah.
No, but what I mean, then don't vote. The thing is not a motion, but is it more information? One from administration, because when we came out of the councillor, the committee of the whole, we came with that recommendation. So now we're changing our, which is okay, but we need to give administration a proper direction then. So what would be the direction, Councillor?
I was just gonna say, like, what are we solving with $12,000? Like, what are we doing? I know, I get the program, but what difference does it make for me if I lived up on where the problem is and they're just trapped, neutered, spayed, or whatever, and they're put right back and they're still there? Like, I understand that we're wanting to get them out there, but in my opinion, we're gonna be back in 6 months, same conversation that there's no difference.
Well, I'm glad you have a crystal ball.
I mean,
don't have
this
it.
is my opinion, and we've spent $12,000 for.
Well, the only other option would be to euthanize them all, and that's against our policy. And like I say, the longer we talk about this, the more cats there's going to be, because they reproduce like crazy. So I'm going to vote in favor of this because it's something. It doesn't work. I agree, and I think the three of us, you know, said we need to this policy because the policy isn't working when you've got 48 cats. We got to do something about this colony of cats. It would be irresponsible if we didn't.
All right. So, are we ready to have a motion to approve the program? Because if not, then the next best is to ask administration to bring the policy back, revisit it, and after it, it's the cat issue, and then maybe can finally solve that issue. I do not know what council wants.
Sorry, another question. Councillor Burton, so you said earlier that you can't support this and you think this isn't going to fix it, which I hear, and that you think that it stems from we don't have the right bylaw or policy in place. Is that what you said? So what does that mean?
Policy.
Well, not necessarily.
So administration just told us two things. One, we're not catching cats.
Right.
And two, so that means that we don't have anything, like we're at zero.
Right.
And the why behind that, if I understood correctly, is because we're just going to stack up in our facility until we can't stop the cat in.
Right.
So
I look at this
and I'm not sure if I'm getting your question right, but if I don't, ask me again. But well, this is just a policy our policy must not be right if A, we're doing nothing for cats. Stack up, like it, and then putting them back, I've never bought into that concept. I think policy is at the root of it. The reason we're not doing anything with cats is because our policy isn't designed in a way that it'll work, in my opinion.
It's because we changed the policy to eliminate euthanasia of animals unless it was, and the bylaw says,
Agreed, but the result of
dire
that,
circumstances.
The result of that is we went to zero.
Yeah, well, no, it's not zero. We have
Well, he just
we
told
have
us
the
none.
$2,500 trap, spay, and neuter release
We
program.
lend out traps as our
Well,
program.
then buy more traps. But anyway, that's what's in the policy. So to revisit the policy, what you're talking about, and to bring it back and re-examine it, if we don't have space or anywhere to put these cats, the only other answer is to euthanize them. That's really what you're talking about, to be honest about it. And we went through that a couple of years ago at length and came up with this policy that we wouldn't do that. But like I say, I don't think that we envisioned that we would have a colony of 48-plus feral cats. Because the $2,500 doesn't handle that at all.
Right, but to answer Councillor Brown's question, my opinion is, we have 48 cats there and 148 across the rest of town because our policy isn't working. If our policy was working, we wouldn't be having a discussion.
All right, so we need to make a decision.
Well, I'll put the motion on the table to see
Good.
where it goes.
Go ahead.
And if it's defeated, then we're back to square one.
Fair
and
enough.
we have to look at bringing back the policy and doing something more drastic, or I don't know.
Okay.
The other options are not coming to my mind. So,
Councillor, you want to make a
yeah, I'll
motion?
just to deal with it and to get it on the table, I'll make the motion. But Councillor Kenley had a question.
Can you read the motion
You can do
properly?
the motion, I'll ask after.
Okay. I will move that we transfer $12,000 from reserves, general government 4-10-260 to the animal control account 2-21-203 for the purposes of hiring the group to deal with this colony of cats on the East Hill.
Okay. Councillor Kenley, you wanted to
I
say
was gonna ask, I
something?
couldn't remember, what was Lior's opinion on this? Like, what was his feeling on?
Okay, we will let the administration
I
address
couldn't
that.
remember.
I don't want to speak exactly for him, but if I recall, the position was that there's concerns because it's not a closed system, right? So you do these programs, but it doesn't stop the reintroduction of other animals into the program. So the highest level of success is when you inventory the amount of animals, you close the system to new animals, and then you take care of them. But we don't have the ability to do that in this case. But, I mean, you're obviously just statistically going to reduce the ability to breed by a huge number of animals. One other thing I just wanted to mention is the Alberta Spay and Neuter Task Force does have a good network of places and people that they help, just like in Standoff, where they were trying to help adopt out a lot of these animals that they worked with. So their goal is to try and minimize what goes back as much too. And so I don't know them at all. I don't know this organization at all, or how deep that network is. And I do want to reiterate that Lior is frustrated because while there are great volunteers and great volunteer groups out there that do take cats, particularly that are in distress or, you know, they need to save from bad environments, they're taxed quite heavily. They don't have a lot of capacity, unfortunately. It's a sad commentary overall. There just isn't a lot of capacity there. But to your question, Councillor, I think, well, I think he thinks that this would be a good program, but we just can't keep it a closed system. So there's always going to be introduction into the system over time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I will
Okay,
pause the-
so
any other
I will pause. Any other questions?
All in
I will
favor?
pause the question. All in favor?
Okay, it passes.
Okay,
Against?
it passes. Against?
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we will move with that motion.
So we will move with that motion. On the 6 B3 window out program, that is something that you want to talk about, Jeff?
If I could, yeah, this one's also, it was a discussion that kind of came about organically at CCW. We wanted to formalize any direction to administration, which was to see if there were some community groups that would do some artwork in our downtown core, in our businesses. The only thing that Joshua brought up and we had some discussion on is we are also simultaneously putting in an assessment subclass bylaw to get owners to take where they need to be, and then at the same time saying, hey, we'll come in and do stuff for you. And so the question is, how do those coexist well, right? So we're saying you need to step up and take responsibility for the look and appearance of your building. Oh, and by the way, we're going to let you off the hook on some of that because we have a program that we're going to get volunteers or we're going to pay some money to do. So we're just trying to work through that a little bit. What message are we sending by each program? They may not be mutually exclusive, by the way. We just put that out there as something to consider.
Jeff, I wanted to know the properties that were given notice to improve. Was there a time limit?
What did we say on there, Joshua? I'm trying to remember now. We did, because we talked about it at a previous meeting. September.
Okay, all right. So what would stop us of starting a beautification program after that time?
Time, volunteers,
right.
money. Yeah.
So
any of those things.
Maybe that
not
don't
trying
need
to be a pessimist, I'm just saying.
Maybe that don't need to be concurrent time-wise.
Yeah, maybe not.
But it doesn't mean that we exclude the other.
It would be nice if we had people willing to do this, to proceed. It would be nice to have it for this season, for the high traffic season. But again, we kind of send this mixed message. But it's not obvious that the owners on our list are going to take immediate action either. So
councillors, what do you feel like? Councillor Grainger, you want to talk to that?
I mean, one of the issues about, and I go back to the example of the vacant things with, you know, wrapping paper and
sure
and paper across the windows. Provide, you know, like to put on the building, you'd still get their permission to put something up in the window. So at the end of the day, you know, through the taxation program or whatever, you'd like to think that these people would do that on their own, but if they need a helping hand that isn't too expensive, you know, to work together, you know, with them, we come up with a program that could offer that, and they could decide whether they want a particular, you know, painting or mural or removable paint on their windows or whatever it would look like.
I just want to mention too, if I might, is that this resolution, this motion is really just to direct administration to put together and investigate the program.
Yeah.
I don't have any dollar numbers for you yet. I don't even know our example. So this is something that will definitely count. Because we at CCW sometimes kick around good ideas, but this is just to finalize whether you want us to act on it. So we can definitely some details back.
Yeah. Okay, to let you loose on this and bring something back that might make some sense, and we'll see what the costs look like,
Right.
and what the appetite is for these building owners too.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burton?
Just one comment. If I remember correctly, the artwork done by the group called Helping Hands, which was across from the confectionery, that was volunteer. So there may be groups that
There might
would
be.
either fund something or may want their thing up or whatever. So it may not be that we actually have to start writing checks. We could be more of a facilitator.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Jeff, do you want to carry on with 6C golf course update?
Most like if you had a resolution on 6B.
Oh, do you want a resolution on the
Yes.
6B?
I'd like
All
something
right.
to direct administration, please.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So who would like to do that? Direct administration to pursue a beautification program. Councillor Jensen?
I'll make that motion to direct administration to investigate a beautification program at this time.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
If I could
Okay.
just make one related comment. When we're doing the SEPTED analysis, it seems like there may be a little bit of overlap there, and that might be something that you throw in that mix just to see where it lands.
Yeah, we talked about that at the last
Did you? Okay.
CCW a little bit. These three things are related to each other. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor.
Did we vote? We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yep, we did.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, I don't have anything to go. If I had I would have some numbers for you by this meeting, but I didn't get them. So put it on the agenda with the assumption I'd have them by meeting. I don't have them.
Okay.
You lean on these guys at all?
Can that not be as simple as a range of dollars per square foot?
So I went back and
That's
yeah,
a 15-minute,
yeah.
if you're in the business.
Yeah, I went back and forth asking, well, so I sort of have that, I mentioned it last meeting. I was going back and forth the night of the last meeting with Dale, as a gentleman, and I said, can you give me a ballpark? And he said, yeah, I think he said between 1.1 and 1.2. He said, I still think that's where you're going to land. They just haven't heard from the electrical and mechanicals yet. So he says, I'm just waiting. That's the last thing. And he thought we'd have it on Friday, but I didn't get that. So I'm sorry I don't have any more data for you just yet.
Councillor Grainger.
We've done first reading of the borrowing bylaw, and we're kind of waiting for this so that we've got some context and some framework around the figures that we don't have right now. And I would think that that's going to delay second reading and the public hearing for this.
Yeah, I mean, your next meeting is also hypothetically the public hearing for the borrowing bylaw. That doesn't mean it automatically leads to second reading. It just means we need to have a public hearing, but it's a hard public hearing to have without that number.
Well,
I don't think you're armed very well for a public hearing.
personally, I'm not prepared to vote in favor of a motion that we don't have some real dollars on the table.
Fair enough, yeah.
I won't do it.
Councillor Brown.
I don't think anybody wants to do that, Councillor.
Yeah.
Would it? I mean, clearly we don't have a hot clue when we're going to get these numbers. It sounds like, but just a tad of frustration would be that I would really like the open house to be in June, because July and August, it's tricky.
Yep.
This is people like to go away, and as soon as we, have an open house during the summer, then people are giving us heck because we're sliding it under them while they're gone. So I realize you're doing your best, but that's just a tad frustrating.
So the only thing, we've got 2 weeks today till the 24th.
Kind of meeting.
And I agree with you. I'm a big fan of hearing something. A lot of people are going in. So I'm hopeful maybe these things show up tomorrow. As far as the hard cost, the extension, ground prep, paving, trails, we have a little bit of that just to tidy up as well. But I'll email it to you, and we'll have to make a decision in just short of a couple of weeks whether we're going to do a public hearing. And Councillor Grainger, if there's not a councillor comfortable to put forward second reading, I would totally understand that. If you don't, you shouldn't do that if you don't feel comfortable.
Over these guys to light a fire under them, or anything? Can we beg? Can we implore them?
Yeah, we've been tweaking the design, and this is going to look for a while. So,
It's more all doing that they're doing. It's
well,
because
this
we
one
were
is
not-
taking a little while, but
we
This
were
isn't
not
rocket
quite-
science.
yeah,
It really isn't. It's a
I
building.
think we're close. But I just didn't have anything tonight, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Councillor.
Would you have to, construct toward facility?
To extend better infrastructure. So, for example, the sanitary that goes in septic tank pump out multiple times a year. In this case, is it to get into the what was called Allan development? That's not what it's called. Fairway Boulevard development, for
So
example.
that was my next question. So
Yeah.
by doing that, do we enhance it to the rest of the development around there? Is there any?
Well, they're
additional
okay.
benefit?
No, they've got good new manhole in where you turn right into Fairway Boulevard that we would extend sanitary down to that area. So it's just those kind of things that we've got to make sure we've got all our costs, our hard costs. We can put the labor and the machine time towards it, of course, but we will be writing checks for materials for sure.
Councillor Grainger.
What about fire flow? Have you looked at that for a building of this size?
Well, I'm going to rely on the mechanical engineers to have some of that information.
Well, my advice would be check that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've got to meet the code.
Up the sprinklers on the.
We've got to meet the code requirements.
Doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
Good wind it does.
All right. So are we okay with that, councillors? Unfortunately, Jeff cannot give us more than what he's been given himself. So on the 60th, the tip interest, I will recommend that we set the interest rate the tip program to 2%. My question to you, Jeff, is that similar to what led?
I have, the city of Lethbridge was contacted. They have decreased to 2% as well.
So in other words, we always lined up with Lethbridge in the past.
I don't know that for sure.
Well, that's for the past 13 years what I heard.
Yeah.
I make a motion that council decreases the TIPP interest rate for the 2024-25 year to 2%.
Okay, all in favor? Still something. All right, let's go to 7. You have a CPO report for May 2024. I thought we already had it before. Under 8 questions, do you have any question for administration?
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, that's a good comment. Thank you.
I've heard compliments or positive comments about us broadening the parking stalls. I've heard
Good.
that multiple times. Yeah. So anyway, the feedback I'm getting is that that's a good
The
idea.
line painting out there looks fabulous.
Good.
Does they fixed the trail.
All right. And thank you for fixing the potholes. We had quite a few potholes up on the east side, and they were fixed, and we very appreciative.
Speaking of which, there's a pothole at the corner of 3rd and Main, and it's fully on Highway 2, but it's a big one. It's right on the corner where the KFC is. And when you turn right onto Main Street,
Oh, yeah, that one.
it's probably 3 feet in diameter and a good 6 inches deep. And it looks like it would be on the pavement of Highway 2 is the responsibility of the constituent asked me, is that a highway fixes that or do that?
Doug Arlos.
You will? Okay, so it's
Until I can tell him.
okay.
Well, that'd be fun. Let's administration deal with it properly. But thank you for the tip.
I'll mention it to him anyhow.
All right. Okay, Councillor.
Do we not have a closed session?
Yes, this concludes
I thought you were saying
the
we were done. I was
public
like-
the public section of our meeting.
Before I go there, I have one comment about paving. And I made this comment before, but whoever did 12th Street up the hill, that resurface, so the golf course road, is that 12th? Well, that's 9th.
Yeah.
Oh, 12th is the other way, yeah, okay. So whoever did 9th past that intersection, and can you put like a little black X by their name just for future reference? I realize that, but I'm saying whoever did it, when we're looking at resurfacing other areas, that's probably the worst job I've ever seen. So just, I think we should keep in mind that that's the work they do, who did that.
Well, there's a lot of soft spots on that road, unfortunately.
No, I know, but
Okay.
it was in a league of its own, it was so bad.
He gets direction from.
Okay, I make a motion to go into closed session.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you to our media. Thank you very much for your service to our town.